Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and today I'm looking at a book from Oxford University Press. It's in their Handbook series. This one is the Handbook of the Law of Visiting Forces. It's now in a second edition. It's an important book internationally, and it's been edited by Dieter Fleck. Now, Elizabeth was the lead writer on this book, and we discussed it in some detail. She's given the title, in fact we agreed this title, Happy to Help, a Modern Approach to the Military Serving Abroad Within Contemporary Legal Frameworks. When I say the military, I include, of course, all three arms of service. Now let's have a little look at the book first. So it's a hardback and it's a heavy book. There we go, there's the front of it, there's the spine, and then there's the back. And if we just open it up, you see some little blurb on the inside dust cover and some basic information about the book in the front section. There is, of course, a detailed index right at the back, and I'm just going to get to it there. There we go, you can see the index there. The index is by page numbering. You can then see the book itself. It's got quite a large amount of numbering of the various chapter headings and so forth, and you do of course have quite a lot of footnotes, which you can see at the bottom there. If we go to the front of the book, you can then see the huge amount of information that's available as the front cover. There's a large number of people mentioned there who've been involved in this book. I can't go through all of their names, unfortunately. There's the basic information, and then do read the preface. The preface is dated December 2017. I'm recording this in the middle of 2018. This is the contents section. You can see how it's structured, split into parts. The individual chapters, the names of the people who've written the chapters are given. The total number is 6 parts and 47 chapters. Then you've got the various lists of treaties and so forth, and by country and by island. Then the tables of legislation, likewise in the same way, and judgments, in other words, the case law, again done in a similar way. Then you've got a very useful abbreviations section, which starts there, and that's a long section, the abbreviation section, as to be expected with the military, having served myself in it. There are lots and lots of abbreviations for everything, and it hasn't changed, but there we go. There's the list of contributors, a large number of people involved on the second page. Then you get to part 1, rather, general framework. Then you see the structure, an introduction, and then the body copy running all the way through with footnoting, and then that's the way it runs through. A very interesting book, and it runs to approximately 800 and actually under 800 pages, but it's a heavy book, and I think it's a very interesting book for the 21st century because of the way things have changed so much during my 50 years of activity in the various areas that are covered by this particular book. So what do we say about it? We say this: a key characteristic of the post-World War II era is the phenomenon of military forces serving in states and territories not their own. This is all too recognizable and widely acknowledged truth. Is actually pointed out by Dieter Fleck in his book. He edits this book very well indeed with the contributors. It's a new second edition, now widely known as the Handbook of the Law of Visiting Forces, published by OUP, that's the Oxford University Press. Now it contains essays and articles from over 30 international contributors, and the book provides a truly global perspective on the legal frameworks which have been developed to regulate the role and the activities of military forces engaged in establishing and maintaining the peace wherever needed. Military forces, say the editor, need to be regulated to ensure compliance with international law, develop cooperation with the receiving state, and achieve an effective mission performance. That's very much the perception, certainly after World War II, and I can understand where people are coming from and what is actually required. Having actually served with, of course, the British Army overseas, I understand what their basic, where they're coming from, if I can put it that way. Now, for readers with little experience of the military, the book does reveal the emergence of a new kind of military balance, in which, as the editor puts it, the applicable law places the balance between the interests, sensitivities and needs of the host state and the requirements of the visiting force. Because our concept of the military balance in the past was how many troops have we got in the west and how many troops have we got in the east and so forth, and the balance was about in fact how much strength there was on one side as opposed to the other. Today you've got a rather different way of actually assessing what is called the military balance. Obviously that publication, the military balance, is normally published every year anyway, but it does give you an idea today of how things have changed. Now, the stated objective here in this book is to ensure that a harmonious relationship between hosts and guests is achieved. Strangely encouraging is the way in which changes in nomenclature mirror attitudinal change, especially considering the insecurities and uncertainties of the political landscape worldwide. And of course, we are in a very different era again from what we were, say, 20 years ago. And of course, the cover photograph here shows military forces and people in need. It does much to reflect the ethos of the book. And in fact, that's something which, looking at it, as I say, over about 50 years of my service in the Army and the MOD, and of course as a practicing barrister, I would say to you that this has been going on, but it's never really been to the fore the way it is today, because the way in which the Army, if I use that term, or the services were seen was rather different from the way they're now perceived. And there are many examples where they've actually come to the assistance of what we basically call the receiving state. Now, in stressing the rights and obligations stemming from the presence of foreign forces in a host state and the consequent and obvious need for cooperation between the national between national and international law, I think the book really does draw all of this information out in a very interesting and very detailed way for the general reader and also the one who has actually quite a lot of knowledge. And the book provides, of course, close analysis and informed commentary from the book's expert contributors, many of whom are from the UN or NATO or top universities, including scholars and practitioners from a variety of legal systems. Now, the book's varied commentaries are grouped under 7 sections to include chapters on such areas as historical developments, headquarters agreements, and case studies. Part 2 offers coverage of 28 SOFAs, that's status of foreign agreements, mainly from NATO, on a broad range of issues from contractor personnel dependence to communications, premises, arms, jurisdictions, and of course much more. And do bear in mind that we are, in this country, a free society, and there are, of course, closed societies who are also involved to a certain extent, and so there is that balance. I mentioned the military balance, but there is a diplomatic balance, the international law balance that also needs to be achieved. And particularly useful, we thought, is that this book is for researchers are the extensive tables included, namely the treaties and the other international instruments from all 50 countries, plus tables of legislation and, of course, of judgments, as it's called, in other words, the case law. Now, as a work of reference, the book has been designed for use in a very easy way, and I did find it easy to get through the book. There's a detailed table of contents at the front and an index at the back, which again is very helpful depending on what you're searching for, and a wealth of useful references in the footnoting throughout. And let me conclude by saying it's for academics and practitioners, we think, seeking to enhance their understanding of what is a complex, vital and continually evolving area of law. And the book makes for enlightening and certainly essential reading. And the date of publication is given as at the 15th of June 2018, and I'm recording it in the summer. I'm being very pleased to read this book, see it, because I'm going back quite a long way now. I think it's a book that's quite relevant for staff college, and I'm certain that people modern service personnel, mainly officers, but I think other ranks may be interested in this too, depending on what sort of arm of service they're involved in, because there is a lot of detail here which would be of help, I think, across the board. So, and of course there's common sense, but I would stress it's about a mixture of the law, the politics, the diplomacy, and of course the international law aspects themselves, all brought together within the military. Thank you to Dieter very much indeed, and all the people involved, and to OUP for publishing a fascinating book for the 21st century. Thank you. Bye-bye.